Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my horrible miscarriage story. Now, stay tuned. By the way, don't go. If you've never been through this, do not go. If you're a guy, do not go. You need to stay and listen and learn some things that you might use it in the future. Or maybe your sister or your female friend or your wife or your girlfriend might be going through it, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, I've heard this somewhere. Guys, let's get straight to it. Okay, so about a year ago, and I didn't speak about this a long time ago just because I didn't feel comfortable talking about it. Guys, anything that I say that happened to me a long time ago, just know that I've just discovered that people are going through it, and maybe if I said something they would have made someone feel better. I don't know. Okay, so about a year ago, that is after I had the twins, so I wasn't planning on having any of the kids for now, and I was on birth control pills. So please, I was on the pills when I got pregnant. And I wasn't living with my husband the same place, so I traveled for holidays. I visited the family and the kids and the husband, and then I came back, and then I discovered that I was pregnant. I mean, I didn't want a baby at that time. We didn't plan on having a baby at that time. That's why I was on birth control pills, guys. And I discovered I had a this period. I'm like, okay, this is strange. Maybe it's the pills or something. And after 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, I did a pregnancy test and it was positive. Now, this is me not wanting a baby, but then knowing that you're pregnant, then you have this kind of, I don't know, this thing like, oh my God, I'm gonna have a baby again. And I started accepting the fact that I was gonna have a baby, which took a lot. It took a lot. Like, not wanting a baby at a particular time that you get pregnant, you start accepting the fact that, oh, you're gonna have a baby, and then you're excited about it. I mean, I didn't tell a lot of people. I told my husband, and he was so excited. He was like, I know you don't want a baby right now, but let's talk about this. We spoke about it, and we both decided to, like, okay, let's have this baby. And I think the only other person I told was my mom. Yeah, I didn't tell friends or anyone. And then everything was going fine. I actually called the hospital, the midwife, and reached out with her when she sent my letter. And then just few days before my first appointment, I started bleeding. But it was just like spots. Guys, I was devastated, but in my mind I'm like, sports are normal, especially during implantation and the rest, during pregnancy. And I searched online, I googled everything, and they're like, yeah, sports are normal and a pregnancy and things like that, and bleeding is normal. I was scared, I was frustrated, I was angry, I was going through a lot at the same time. So this is me. Now, I called my friend who is a nurse, and I told her about it. She was like, girl, you need to get it checked. I mean, if it's just sports, maybe it's okay, but it's always good to get it checked. Now, it was Friday, I think, and I've been bleeding for like 3 days because I think not reading. But over and over, I'm like, well, the internet says it's okay, but I'm scared. I went to the GP, and the GP did the pregnancy test, and the GP was like, well, it's still positive, so you're still pregnant. I think you're fine. It's just normal. And they didn't tell me that, oh, even if you had a miscarriage, as far as the pregnancy hormones are still in your body, it's still gonna test positive. And I came back feeling a little bit happy, but a little bit like I was in the middle. And then I woke like on the fifth day after sports, and on the fifth day it became heavier, but it was still it was less than a normal period, like flow and things like that. So I took myself feeling scared, anxious, everything happening in my head, crying, to A&E, because my GP said if you get serious, go to A&E. I went to A&E, and after sitting there for about 2 to 3 hours, I met this nurse. that told me, oh no, you're fine, it should be fine, everything is okay. And by the way, even if it's a miscarriage, it will still happen at home. We can't keep you in the hospital or anything. You're not the first person to go through that. It's so normal. People come in here and they will send them back home. Like, this is me being confused. I'm being sad about the fact that I could be having a miscarriage, and this nurse was so rude to me. I'm smiling about it now, but then I just burst out of tears. I started crying my lungs out. I came back and I still called my friend who was a nurse, and she was like, when you go there, you need to behave like you can't breathe, like you're gonna die if they don't see you or do a scan. And I think that was after a week, and it was still back to a Friday, and early pregnancy center or something like that doesn't open till Monday. And there was me, I had to go through a whole weekend not knowing if I was still pregnant or not, going through that trauma. I was crying the whole time. I was depressed. I didn't know what to do. I called my husband and he was like, you're gonna be okay. He tried talking me down, but nothing anyone said then made sense. Everything was just like, no, I just want to die too. And yeah, I went back to A&E when the pain became more than I could take. Like, it would just hit and it's gonna hurt and then goes back. I went to A&E. I'm not gonna call the hospital because I don't want it to look like I'm spoiling some hospital's name or something. I went there and should I call it? No, I'm not gonna do that, please, sorry. I went there and the first nurse that saw me and took my blood pressure and everything, she was quite nice. She was like, oh, what's happening? And then she consulted me, and then she was like, oh, I'm just gonna get someone to see you. She brought this other lady. She took me to this other room, and the lady just came in, sat there, and she was like, oh no, even if you were bleeding and you couldn't even walk, you still have to go home because there's nothing we can do here. I'm like, oh, what lady is sick? It was me. I carried my pain back home. Sat there feeling confused, dealing with pain, feeling with depression, feeling anxious and everything. And I called my parents. I told them, it's like, I'm having a miscarriage. I don't know what's happening, but I'm really low, and I was just by myself in my house. And my parents were like, oh, we'll come and pick you up. So I went to my parents' place for that weekend just because I couldn't bear to wait till Monday to know. It was so frustrated. I went there and we're like, since we cannot have an early pregnancy scan till Monday, we should try and book something like private hospital wise. I checked online, I could find one, and we booked it for the next day, for Saturday evening. I booked it for about 7 p.m. That day, my mom went to work and I and my dad were going to the post office to drop something. And once he left the car to get to the post office, now guys, this pain, I couldn't sit down, I could not stand up, I could not lie down, nothing could make it work. You know how you watch films and when people have a miscarriage and all of a sudden they're like screaming, I'm like, oh no, that's made up. Nah, the pain was excruciating. I don't even know what word to use right now, but my whole body, my back was breaking into pieces. My brain could not understand what was happening. When my dad came back, he was like, are you okay? I turned and looked at him, and the normal me that always says, yeah, I'm fine, I couldn't. I just burst out in tears because the pain I was going through was horrible. I went to A&E, we took a number. I sat on the chair, I couldn't sit. I tried going to the floor, I couldn't. I stood up, I couldn't. My dad rushed to the pharmacy in the hospital and got me Panadol extra or something, which was quite strong. And then he gave me, like, you should just take this. Maybe by the time they get to you, you'll be fine and things like, you feel better, or just to reduce the pain while we're waiting for the doctor. I took it and it's like I just drank water. This pain was painful. It was more painful than the pain I had after C-section. It was more painful than the pain I had after having weight loss surgery. Like, it was the most painful thing in my life. I cried out my lungs. I sat in that hospital. I could not do anything. I was crying and the nurses were just passing by. When I got to a point where I just slept on the floor, allegedly, I thought I had lost consciousness. A nurse now came and took me in, put me on a chair, and she was like, "What's wrong?" I said, "I think I'm having a miscarriage and I cannot even begin to bear the pain." I wasn't thinking about the miscarriage trauma then. I was just thinking about the pain. She took me immediately to see the doctor. And when I got there, I couldn't even sit on the chair to talk to the doctor, legit, guys. I was like, I didn't know what position to take to feel better. I didn't know anything. So they put me on the bed. I could not think of any, like, you know how they say, I can say I've never fainted in my life, but I felt like I just wanted to close my eyes and end the pain. That was where I was. So they gave me this gas thing that they put in your nose and then you breathe in and it helps with pain. And then they were like, just breathe in slowly. And guys, that thing took my pain from 10 to 1 that fast. I'm like, if you had this remedy, why did you keep me suffering there for an hour? I was unable to even when I breathed, it hurt. And when they gave me the thing, I don't know if I overtook it or something, I could not reply when they were calling my name. The doctor and the nurse turned and told me that, they kept calling me, Mimi, are you there? I could hear them, but I couldn't talk back. I don't know what's that called. If you know what's that called, please, if you know the name of that thing or if you know what it's called, please put it in the comment section, because I don't know if I was unconscious or I had fainted or I was asleep, but I felt like I was in a dream. They were calling my name, trying to tap me. I was trying to reply, but I couldn't say anything. I was trying to be like, no, I'm up. I kept telling myself, my brain, like, Mimi, wake up, Mimi, wake up, Mimi, wake up. You are up. Stop closing your eyes and stop not replying these people. But I couldn't get myself to do that. I don't know what that's called in science, but if you know the name, please let us know. So that pain just took me down, and I finally woke up after the call. My name like sister. My dad was panicking, like, oh my god, Mimi is dead. I mean, he didn't show you then, but like few days after, my mom was like, you know, your dad called me and said you died here. Why am I laughing? This thing, it's not funny. It's not funny. I mean, when I went through it, I never knew that I would get to this point where I would be able to smile about that point in my life. So as the pain reduced, they put me on a wheelchair. I had to go see a gynecologist. I had to check, but then the scan, I was told the scan is not available in the hospital in A&E. I had to wait till Monday to get it checked out in the early pregnancy section. That was still Saturday. I didn't still know if I was pregnant or not. So I took me to this ward and I was kept there, and the gynecologist came and saw me. She was like, well, since we cannot do the scan, the only way is to do the one where, I don't know what's called, but they put like a tube through your, I don't know if I call the word, if is YouTube going to block this video? You know your human pad down there, your female pads down there. Yeah, they had to send the tube, and then the gynecologist would check if your womb is open or closed. So when she checked it, she told me, well, your womb is still closed. So it could be two things. It's either you've had a miscarriage that has already happened, or you have a miscarriage that is still supposed to happen, or you haven't had a miscarriage. Actually, three things. She just told me like, well, we just have to wait and see, and if you pass out any clots, please, you need to show me because I need to know to monitor the progress. I told her, well, I actually booked a scan for tonight. It's just that things got too worse that I had to come into hospital. She was like, yeah, if you stay here, if you feel any better and you have someone to drive you, they can drive you to the scan and you can bring back the how do they call it, the results to us so we can see. I'm like, cool, because I wanted to know, because minus the pain, I was dealing with trauma to know if I still had this baby or not. So I sat there, the pain collapsed after the whole gas thing that I was given. And when it was almost time for my appointment, I had to leave the hospital and I went to the clinic, to the private clinic, which I had paid for. And they did the scan and they told me, oh no, they can't see any baby, that I'm not pregnant. And I was like, well, we did a pregnancy test before and I was pregnant and I've been having these miscarriage thingies. And she was like, oh yeah, if there's no baby, that means that I've had a miscarriage, or a miscarriage is happening right now. I was like, okay, thank you. I left and I called the gynecologist and I updated the hospital about that. They were like, oh, what the next step is, I have to go to early pregnancy section so they can check everything finally and check if there's any part of the baby still in there that they need to take out surgically and everything like that. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And they asked me, oh, do I need a counselor or someone to talk to? I'm like, the normal Mimi, no, I'm okay. I wasn't okay. I wasn't. I wish I said I want to talk to someone, but I wasn't okay. Guys, if you're going through this, please talk to someone, because anyways, let me continue the story. I went in on the Monday finally to the early pregnancy clinic and they did the scan. They said there was no baby there or no fetus or anything, that it was a miscarriage. And I had to book I had to either let it come out on its own and they do a check later if there's any other thing, or take a pill or do the surgical. But I wanted the fast way. I wanted it gone. The pain was too much. And yeah, so they did the surgical method. I booked it for the next day, which was quite straightforward. Yeah, it was quite straightforward. It's just a surgery. They put you under and they give you anesthesia and you sleep, and then they take it out. And it's outpatient, so you go home that same day, but you need someone to drive you just because they gave you anesthesia. That thing that makes you sleep. Yeah. After that, I went home and I recovered from it, like, slowly. I'm gonna tell you this, I spent days crying to my pillow. I didn't know what made me cry, but I cried a lot. And I wish I spoke to someone, like a professional, about this, but the whole thing has just made my brain in such a way that now when I talk about being pregnant or babies, or think about it like, do I want to have another baby, I'm like, nah. Not because I don't like babies or I don't want more babies, but just because I don't want to get pregnant and have another miscarriage. It was traumatic. Now that I'm talking about it, it was painful. And if you're going through it, please don't wave it off like, okay, I'm feeling better now. Talk to a professional about it. Deal with it. Like, we just see that's normal. Oh, you have a miscarriage, you move on. It's not easy. It's not easy. And just telling someone, oh, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna have another kid, oh, you're gonna get pregnant again, it doesn't solve it. It's hard. Yeah. Do not cry on a video. Get it together. It happened a long time ago. If you need to cry, cry. If it's gonna make you feel better, I'm gonna advise you to cry. I'm not gonna say everything is gonna be fine. No, if you need to cry, cry. It made me feel better about it. Like, I cried and cried and cried, and I got it out there through tears, and I was okay. And guys, please do not forget to subscribe and like. And sorry I didn't bring this on earlier on. I didn't just feel comfortable talking about it then, but hopefully my story will give you lights on it. So if you're bleeding, it could be just implantation or normal, or it could be the worst, that you're losing the baby. But be strong. Everything is gonna work out with time. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. I love you all. Sorry, today is a sad story. I just needed to say it, if that makes sense. Thank you. And if you have someone going through this, if you have someone going through a miscarriage, please be there for them. Just call them, check on them. Even when they don't want to pick up their call, still your call, just because they're going through that sad times. Not everyone likes to share their sad moments with friends or families. They just like to deal with that issue. Still call and check up on them. Ask them what's happening today, what have you done, how you feeling, what's the progress, and things like that, because it's a very traumatic time. I know the person that's gonna search this video or watch it will be someone that might be going through it. Not necessarily, people hardly go search things to know what their friends are going through. They're just like, oh, okay, you're going through your stuff. But if you watch this and you have a friend or a family member going through it, please be there for them, and a kind word will go a long way. Thanks for watching.